Welcome back to RXMuscle's Iron Road to the Olympia 2018, brought to you by Redcon One. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's guest is 27-year-old Iain Valliere. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Are you the youngest guy in the Olympia lineup, in the open lineup?
I mean, without confirming that, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think by a long shot, too.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone under 30 that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, Nathan's early 30s.
Yeah.
I don't really know other than that. But yeah, I mean, maybe by a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we watched you progress, obviously, from that amateur Olympia that you won down in Acapulco, Mexico, and kind of shocked the world. You've worked your way up the ranks in the IFBB. You've slowly put on a lot of size. How much muscle have you actually gained since that first pro qualifying win?
Probably a good 40 pounds of stage weight.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, at least, because I mean, my conditioning in Spain, I was probably even a little tighter than I was when I turned pro, and I was basically exactly 40 pounds heavier.
Amazing. Now that's hard work. And what would you say would be your training philosophy? Are you a heavy duty type guy, heavy weights?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Dorian Yates. You know, I like, I think you're kind of on the same, methodology. When you were training, the 1 to 2 sets of, all out, and once I feel I've made best use of that exercise, I move on. I'd like to be in the gym 45 minutes, an hour, get the most out of the exercise I can, and get out of there.
To me, I love that philosophy. I think it works great. I know it's obviously not for everyone. Everyone has their own styles, but for me, it always worked really well. Do you happen to be one of these guys that can overtrain pretty easily if you do too much volume?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I find so, especially when the calories are getting a little lower going into prep. And like I've been prepping since January, and I find if I really push the volume a little too hard, I definitely notice I start to kind of wither down a bit. So especially when we've been pushing things this long, I need to, I think, just hit it hard and hit it fast, and conserve those calories and that glycogen, and not kill myself too hard, right?
Yeah. Now, you qualified at the Bigman Weekend, which was out in Spain, which was kind of like a more of an esoteric show. Did you purposely pick that show because you figured it might be a little on the smaller side and you can kind of take advantage of that?
I mean, honestly, I had no idea who was going to do the show. After I did Vancouver, I saw how I looked there, and I knew what I needed to improve. Right. That I could have sneaked up in, the first, second spot just in Van with some small improvements on posing. My color was a little off, especially in prejudging. Right. Small things, like my breathing control, just things that I know hurt me and that I spoke with the judges after Vancouver. So I just looked at the schedule. The next show that was on the agenda was Spain. I said, fuck it, we're going to Spain. So, I mean, That was really it. I mean, there was not too much thought into it other than I want to get in the show as fast as I can and, not wear my body out and look, while I'm looking good, get into a show, right? So,
yeah.
And Spain's fun. I mean, I'd never been to Spain. I've been to Europe a few times, to Italy and the UK and stuff, but I'd never been to Spain. So I took it as a double opportunity to, go somewhere new as well as potentially win a show, right? So
it seems like whenever you go to a Spanish-speaking country, you tend to do very well.
Yeah, I even posted when I was in the town in Spain. I was driving by downtown there, and there was a hotel called Hotel Acapulco.
Oh, right.
Took a picture of it and put it on my Instagram. I'm like, this can only mean good things, The last time I was in somewhere near Acapulco, I won a pro card. So, I mean, it was kind of one of those funny things, yeah.
Yeah, Iain is one of the fairest skinned guys I've ever seen. And I see him down in Mexico, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing here? It's the Latin American Championships, and he wins that show. And now you go to Spain and you win your first pro show, qualify for the Olympia. Was the goal this year to go to the Olympia? Is that what you really wanted more than anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and even if I hadn't won the show, I would have gone to Tampa, and I think in Tampa, looking at the lineup, I think I could have definitely been top 5 there, and that would have got me in on points either way, right. I think. And if I hadn't got in top 5 there, I mean, I would have slammed out the next show post-Olympia and tried to qualify for 19. I mean, I was just mentally, I was in a good place this year. I've been having a lot of fun training. It doesn't feel like hard work this year, Like, it always feels like hard work because you're putting maximal effort into it, but I didn't feel like I wasn't waking up in the morning like, shit, I got to do cardio. And, I was looking forward to my training every day as an opportunity to improve. And, I've just been having fun since Indianapolis in March, so.
Sure, yeah, you've been going.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep running with it while I felt good and I felt healthy, and I was having fun. So I was just going to push as long as it took to, get that qualification or get the points or whatever it took, right?
At 27 years old, your body can handle that for sure. So you have a little advantage over these other guys that are in their 30s and 40s. Now, Interestingly, you mentioned earlier Dorian Yates style training. You put up, I think it was you who put up the post. It was you versus Dorian Yates. It was like a comparison picture. I think we have it right here. It was like a side relaxed position, right?
Yeah, I didn't put it up. It was some page that this guy does comparisons of, older era bodybuilders versus newer ones.
Right. Fernando Arroyo, his name was.
This guy, yeah. So, there was a lot of people that were obviously really cheesed by this comparison. People that are obviously hardcore Dorian Yates fans and were offended by that I was even put in the same sentence. Which, sure, you're a fan of the guy. I understand that. He's a 6-time Mr. Olympia. But, you look at the shots. I got him in some of those shots.
Well, yeah, people were offended that you said you got him. One of the things I think that no one could really, understand, unless you've seen Dorian compete in person, was that pictures just can't capture the way you look. Especially him. He was so wacky, freaky, hard, dense, graininess that when people take pictures, I think people get offended because the people who've seen him in person know that wasn't the picture doesn't really paint the true picture.
A couple of guys did say that. They're like, pictures never did him justice,
Yeah.
Some guys that did watch him in, the 90s Olympias and stuff. And, of course, pictures, even we've all been to the Olympia as of recent when people say, Ramy's killing Phil. And we know sitting in front, front row, it's a different story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, being there is always a very different, tells a different tale than watching online or, seeing photographs for sure, right?
I would look at pictures of myself after the show and I would want to throw up when I saw the pictures of myself. And I'm like, how does anyone think I look good in these pictures? And then I would watch a video or someone would say, you don't understand. You got to see what you look like in person. It's like, because you can't. It doesn't translate sometimes into photographs,
I do the same almost after every show. I look at myself in the mirrors and I'm taking progress photos. I'm like, fuck yeah, I look good. And I get off stage and see the first shots. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I look like shit, I'm like showing them to Melissa, to my fiance. I'm like, did I look this shitty? She's like, no, like, don't look at that, She's like, I swear
it's true.
I look better than that, So yeah, you always got to take them with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
You don't the comparison for size and the conditioning's always different in a photograph with the light. It's never quite the same, right?
Black guys always look better in pictures because it's just the way the lighting and photography takes place. It's a well-known fact. You could call it racist, whatever. It's just true. The darker your skin is, the better you look in photographs. It's because of the light reflection. And the lighter your skin is, the worse you look in photographs.
I'm about as light as it gets. So.
Yeah, you're like albino almost, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty white. Yeah.
So going into the Olympia now, what do you think you'll weigh on stage?
I'm going to be heavier than any of the shows I've done so far this year. That's for sure. We did a little bit of a rebound after Spain, and my body responded phenomenally. Since I've been dieting so long with the, increased food and, being able to, get a little higher intensity in the training, my body did respond very well. So I think I'm going to be somewhere like in the 252 to 254 range. Okay. So I'm 262 this morning. I maybe have 8 to 10 pounds to go. If you're talking, getting rid of water and all that kind of stuff, but not much more than that.
What would you be satisfied with leaving that Olympia weekend?
What would I be satisfied with?
Yeah, like, okay, you know what, mission accomplished.
There's a difference. I have a goal of what I want to achieve, and then I have something that I would be satisfied with that, like, I wouldn't go cry after I left,
right.
If I get a placing, a 15, 14, they stop judging after 15. So as long as I'm in the numbers, I would be content. Obviously the goal, I want to get in that top 10, or at least, right. There's some guys I want to get some comparisons with that I think could end up in the top 10 that I think I could stack up well against. I'm aiming for that top 10, top 12. But if I get a placing, I'll sleep at night.
Okay. Who out there? There's got to be someone out there that you want to beat, though. What guys do you want to say, man? I want to put these guys in the rearview mirror. Who would you like to do? Who would you say those guys are?
Number one is Steve Kucklow for sure. He won Indy, and after how I looked in Vancouver and Spain, I look at that, I'm like, I can beat this guy, no problem. Right. And not to like throw the
no,
race,
you're just saying,
not to throw the race thing around, but he's probably the highest placing white guy at the show, and I want to be the number one white guy at the Olympia. So, So that's it. I'll try and get rid of the white guys first, and then we'll go from there. But I think Steve, we have similar structure in a lot of ways, even though he is a taller guy. Yeah. We kind of put together similar But, I think in terms of, front to back thickness, I am a lot bigger than him.
Right.
I think he can beat me on maybe a front double, and I think any other pose I can give him a run or beat him. So he's someone I'd like to get next to, and I think I could beat. He's probably the number one.
Yeah. Now, we know you're engaged to Melissa Bumstead, which is Chris Bumstead's sister. How do you think she's going to do on stage in the figure?
I think she'll be in the top 6 to 7.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now, last year, I really liked the way she looked. I thought she looked almost a little too big last year. Did you guys downsize her a little bit?
We downsized her a bit. I mean, I think especially after, because she just won Tampa, right?
Right.
And Tampa, I mean, there was 52 girls there. We have Weinberg as the head judge. I think she's got some good momentum going into the Olympia.
Right.
She beat some really good girls there. Michelle Pinto, who won LA the week before, and I can't remember what the Mexican Spanish lady who came second's name is.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's placed high at the Arnold's and placed top 10 at the Olympia. So, and she beat these girls in front of a good panel of judges. So I think if she is a little fuller, she needs to be she was a little flat in Tampa, but the conditioning was good, and I think the amount of size that we've kind of brought her to now is good. I think she can definitely be in that top 6 or maybe even better. Yeah.
It's crazy how Chris and his sister have the same exact genetics, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean structurally, they're tiny waist, the high lat insertions, the crazy quad detail. I mean, they're so similar, and they both have shitty backs.
Now, here's the question: everyone wants to know. Obviously, you do Chris's diet for him. How will Chris fare this year? I mean, obviously, there's going to be a big rematch between him and Breon. Plus, there's a lot of new killers in that top 5 that are going to be showing up. Do you feel that Chris could improve upon what he brought last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Chris is improving, but to be completely, objective about it, I think everyone's improving. I mean, you see Brown looks great. I mean, all these guys look great. And like you just said, there's a lot of new guys that Chris hasn't stood next to yet. So I think he's as much of a contender as he was last year, and he placed second last year.
Right.
I think if he comes at 100%, he can win. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's going to be a tough top 5, but he'll be in the mix. Yeah.
I was on record as saying I felt he should have won last year. So, I mean, I think it's very close between him and Breon, obviously. And I'm sure the judges are going to really be working these guys against each other because it was a close decision. It wasn't a runaway decision. So that makes it even more interesting,
Yeah, and I mean, we looked at it after, and we know exactly why he lost. I mean, he got just obliterated on the back shots. From the front, I think he obliterated Brown as much as Brown did from him in the back. But I think they weigh those back poses maybe a little higher.
Yep.
And Brown's just overall very complete. I mean, it's not like Chris has wow factor, but Brown is like a Phil. It's like you can't just pick one thing that's really wrong,
Right.
It's like everything's good. Everything's like an 8.5 out of 10, where Chris is like a 10 out of 10 for the front, but a 7 out of 10 for the back,
Right. That's good. It's a good analogy. Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think if his back comes up to like an 8 or an 8.5, he'll be impossible to beat,
Yeah.
Structurally, there's no one in the world like Chris,
No, he's an anomaly for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Iain, good luck at the Olympia. Obviously, being your first one, it should be. Everyone always tells me, for the first Olympia, you're supposed to enjoy yourself, and then the next ones you do after that, it's work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a cool experience too that all 3 of us, me, Chris, and Melissa get to do it together. So, I mean, we're all excited, and it's just going to be a good experience for us all to share together. So
that whole Canadian contingency you guys got going on there is unbelievable with all the
I think there's 17 Canadians or something.
It's wacky. Never in the history of bodybuilding have we seen this.
Yeah. At least I can hold the torch. I'm the only guy in the open.
That's right. You are. You're holding it down there. So someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah. I rub it into Chris. I'm like, yo, there's 5 of you classic guys. Like, you ain't nothing special.
Well, there's a lot of classy, Canadians up there. Only one true hardcore beast. There you go.
No, the classic is growing for sure up here in Canada. So I think, especially at the amateur shows, I mean, it's exploding here, and I think. Especially with guys like Chris and, Henry Pierre and these guys that are, Regan, that are big names here in Canada, I think it's brought a lot of guys to, that look up to their physiques kind of over to that division as well.
Without a doubt. And then you got Zane, obviously, the 212. So you guys, you have every division covered. But once again, good luck. And like I said, we'll see you out in Vegas. And thanks for taking some time to talk to us.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right. That's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live with RXMuscle's Iron Road to the Olympia 2018, brought to you by Redcon One. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time. Thanks, man.
Perfect. Thank you.